I'm Maddie. There are nights when I lie awake, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me like a physical force. I remember that fateful midnight, standing barefoot in the cold hallway, my palm flat against the wall as if I could hold the crumbling pieces of my world together. The voices seeping through from the study were like a cold knife in my heart, shattering the illusions I'd so desperately clung to. It all started with a chance encounter at a tech conference in San Francisco. I was representing my firm's interior design division, and Ethan was presenting on emerging technologies in smart home systems. He was tall, with a warm smile and kind eyes. When he accidentally knocked his ID badge into my coffee cup while reaching for a handout, we both burst into laughter. That simple, genuine laugh was like a breath of fresh air in the stuffy conference hall, and I felt an immediate connection. We dated for 2 years. Ethan was the kind of man who remembered the little things. He'd bring me my favorite pastries on random mornings and call me just to say he was thinking of me. He was close to his mother, Olivia. She was a sophisticated woman in her late 50s, with a sharp intellect and an air of elegance. She had a way of making you feel welcome, but there was always a hint of something beneath the surface. I had bought my house 3 years before I met Ethan. It was a charming craftsman bungalow in a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. I had saved for years and put in a lot of hard work to make it my dream home. The house was registered in my name, and I had every document to prove it. When Ethan and I got married, we agreed to look into refinancing together once we settled into our new life. We trusted each other completely, and I never imagined that trust would be so brutally betrayed. In the first few months of our marriage, Olivia visited every couple of weeks. She'd come bearing gifts and stories, and I welcomed her with open arms. We'd sit in the kitchen, sipping tea and chatting about life. I thought she was a wonderful addition to my life, and I was grateful to have her as a mother-in-law. But then, I started noticing little things. She'd ask casual questions about the house, like how much I'd paid for it and what the mortgage terms were. I thought it was just her being curious, so I answered her questions without much thought. Then, she began rearranging things in the house. The throw pillows on the couch removed, and the art on the walls was rehung. She always had a good reason, like making the room look more balanced or functional, but it made me feel like I was losing control of my own space. I talked to Ethan about it once. We were lying in bed, and I told him that I was starting to feel a bit uncomfortable with the frequency of his mother's visits and the changes she was making. He looked at me with concern and promised to talk to her. But nothing changed. The visits continued, and the rearrangements became more frequent. One day, Ethan's sister, Lily, called to wish us a happy birthday. In the course of the conversation, she let slip that Olivia had been looking into moving in with us for a while. I was shocked. We'd never discussed it, and I felt like I'd been kept in the dark. I started to put the pieces together, the questions, the rearrangements, it all made sense now. Olivia had been planning this for a long time. Despite my growing suspicions, I decided to trust Ethan. After all, I loved him, and I wanted to believe that he had my best interests at heart. But then, one fateful night, everything fell apart. It was a Friday night in March. Ethan came home early with a bottle of champagne and a bouquet of my favorite roses. We cooked dinner together, and it felt like old times. We laughed and talked, and I allowed myself to hope that things were going to get better. After dinner, we sat in the living room, sipping champagne and enjoying each other's company. I fell asleep on the couch, and when I woke up at midnight, Ethan was gone. The house was eerily quiet. I could hear the faint hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the old house. Then, I heard voices coming from the study. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but something inside me told me that I needed to know what was going on. I crept to the wall and pressed my ear against it. Olivia's voice was calm and calculated. If we act before she adds you to the deed, we can claim a share of the house. She signed nothing, and if we document our residency here, we can argue that she gifted us the right of habitation. Ethan's voice was low, but I could make out some of his words. I don't know, Mom. This doesn't feel right. But Olivia persisted. She trusts you, Ethan. That's our advantage. We just need to be patient and play our cards right. I felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. All the love and trust one had for Ethan and Olivia were shattered in an instant. I stood there, frozen, my heart pounding in my chest. I wanted to confront them, but I knew I needed to be smart. I went back to bed and pretended to be asleep when Ethan came back. That night, I lay awake, my mind racing. I realized that Olivia had been manipulating me from the start. The kindness, the gifts, it had all been an act. And Ethan, my husband, had known about it. He had chosen to side with his mother over me. In the morning, I got up as usual. I made coffee and set out 3 mugs. I plastered a smile on my face and pretended that nothing was wrong. Ethan kissed me goodbye and went to work, completely oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I knew I needed to take action. I called my father, a retired detective with a no-nonsense approach to life. He listened to my story without interrupting, and then he said, "You need to get a good lawyer, Maddie. And don't let them know you're onto them." I followed his advice. I found a real estate attorney named Amelia Thompson. She was tough and no-nonsense, and she immediately understood the gravity of the situation. I brought her all the documents related to the house, and she assured me that the house was legally mine. But she also warned me that if Olivia had been documenting her residency and making financial contributions, she might be able to claim a right of habitation. Over the next few days, I gathered evidence. I documented every conversation about the house, every change Olivia had made, and every financial contribution she had made. Amelia prepared a formal notice of residence, stating that Olivia was a guest in my house, and a letter to the bank to protect the existing mortgage structure. I also decided to confront Ethan. One evening, when Olivia was out, I sat him down in the kitchen. I looked him in the eye and asked him how long he had known about his mother's plan. He looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "I didn't want to hurt you, Maddie," he said. "I thought I could keep the peace." I was furious. "You knew, Ethan. You knew, and you let it happen." He tried to explain, but I wasn't listening. I told him that our relationship needed to change, and that I couldn't trust him until he took a stand against his mother. He promised to try, but I could see the conflict in his eyes. A week later, I decided to have a family meeting. I invited my father, Ethan, and Olivia to the house. I printed out all the documents and placed them on the coffee table. When they arrived, I sat them down and began to speak. I explained the situation clearly and calmly. I showed them the deed to the house, the letter from my attorney, and the public record of Olivia's legal inquiry. Olivia's face remained expressionless, but I could see the anger in her eyes. Ethan looked down at his hands, ashamed. I told them that I was willing to give Olivia 30 days to find alternative housing, and that I would take no legal action if she left without contest. Olivia tried to argue, but I cut her off. "You are my guest, Olivia. You used my trust against me, and you tried to take my home. I won't let that happen." In the end, Olivia agreed to leave. My father drove her to a hotel, and Ethan and I were left alone in the house. We talked for hours that night. He apologized, and I could see that he was truly remorseful. But I knew that it would take a long time to rebuild the trust that had been broken. I've replanted the garden, and it's blooming with colors that I've chosen. I've learned that trust is not something to be given freely, but earned. And while I may never fully regain the innocence I once had, I'm stronger and more resilient because of what I've been through.